Geoffrey Shields, welcome to Profile.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely fascinated with your story, which is the story we're going to be sharing today.
Yeah.
So the Shields that we're talking about here is the Shields from Shields and Shields. And people
Correct,
know this from the horticulture background.
Right.
The flowers, the plants, and all of that. But your story is also about being a conductor, a music director, an educator. And it begins in Manchester, and that's where I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the early days growing up in Mile Gully in Manchester.
Yes, I had an exciting life growing up. Luckily for me, I had happy parents and a great family. You know, nothing like growing up in a good family. 8 of us in Mile Gully. I was born in Kingston, but we grew up in Mile Gully, Manchester. And my parents were basically business people. My father had a milk truck that would go around the countryside to collect milk for the Jamaican milk products. I think now it's Cadbury, right? And my mother had a bakery. And we had quite a big family. And unlike today, and I'm sorry for the young people today, what they're missing, we used to have visitors coming over almost every night to the house, you know, every evening, you know? And that's something I used to look forward to.
What were they doing?
Well, we'd talk politics, we would talk religion, we would just talk about life. Different people would come over, neighbors or friends. So we grew up as a family, a loving family, and with the church. Actually, the Moravian Church started in our home in Mile Gully. My parents started that, you know.
Started the church?
Yeah, they got in, they organized the whole thing, got the ministers in, and the Moravian Church in Mile Gully started there.
Let's talk a little bit first about the parents. What were they saying to you as you were growing up?
Oh, well, the thing is, they were very disciplined and they were very loving, and we could always communicate with them, especially my mother, you know, a sweet person. You could always go to her about anything, and they were always there to guide us.
Let's talk a little bit about the school days now. So that, in particular, the high school. And you made the connection earlier between the fact that you grew up around music, especially the church music.
Yes, yeah.
And that was something that developed a little bit more as you went into high school as well.
Absolutely. My first day at Manchester High School was quite an experience. When I went the first day, I heard this marvelous singing, and the voice of the teacher was quite incredible, you know. And I said, this sounded like Reverend Robert Cuthbert. Cuthbert was a minister in Mile Gully Church with his accordion, and he's always singing. And the voice sounded, but then when I looked, I saw it was an Englishman, and eventually I found out it was Barry Davies, an outstanding musician. And so I was extremely lucky to have been at school at the time. Just the 2 years, my first 2 years there, he was leaving Kingston, leaving RJR, and drive up to Manchester School to teach music on Thursdays and Fridays. And so I had that marvelous experience, and that really pulled me more into music.
But you said more into music because you had been playing the piano at that time.
Yes, but you know, there was no opportunity to go to a piano teacher in Mile Gully or in Manchester. And even at high school, you know, that was difficult because Barry Davies wasn't teaching piano, he was doing class music. But then eventually I ran into Mrs. Isabel Hicks, and she took me over and consumed me and had me at her home and taught me. And so then I started to do formal music training at probably I think around age 14, right? And then she said to me, you know, what you must do is the Associated Board exams of the Royal School of Music. So we said, okay, fine, let's start with grade 1. And she said, no, I think you can do grade 2.
You skipped
and
a grade.
Just started, yes. I skipped the grade 2 and got distinction. So next year we're looking at grade 3. And then she said, no, look at 4. And I ended up the second year doing grade 5, again with distinction. And the third year, we're looking at grade 7, and I ended up doing grade 8. So I did grade 2, grade 5, grade 8, all with distinction in 3 years. I think at that time, it was never done before.
So and I was like recommended at 8 year.
Huh?
Would usually take about 8 years.
It's an 8-year course, really. You know, people do skip some grades, you know, but to do 2 to 5 to 8, and all with distinction. I didn't just barely pass them, you know. And that was quite an experience. And they recommended me for the scholarship to go to England, which my father wouldn't have, because they don't usually recommend that for grade 8. It's reserved for the LRSM people. But so I didn't pursue that, anyway. And
that's the LRSM, that's the London...
It's a licentiate of the Royal Schools of Music. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did that 2 years after. I did 2 of them, one for teaching and one for piano. And then I did a fellowship, which is the top one, from London University.
Said something, explain something to me. What was it about what you were learning in Jamaica that prepared you for the overseas exams? What was it about how you were doing the piano? What was it about the practice?
Well, you see, the teaching was geared based on the syllabus. So it's a set thing by the Royal Schools of Music. And it's a set course and the books. And so, we went through that kind of course here, and it's still being done.
How often were you practicing?
Oh, wow. When I was in school, when I started high school, I would do 2, 3, 4 hours a day while in school. I remember that. You couldn't get me off the piano.
But you had classes, but you were doing like 4 hours.
Oh, yes. And in fact, let me tell you this. At Manchester, we had an incredible headmaster, Jerry German. Yeah. He's one, I think, who started sex education in school and student council. That's the kind of thing he instigated and promoted. Quite different, quite a radical, and he allowed me to leave school at 1 o'clock every Friday to go to the School of Music. That's after year 3, after I finished the grade 8 exams, to go to School of Music because he thought that music is what I should do.
And in fact, as it would turn out, music for a large part of your career is what you would do. But I have to take my first break on Profile. My guest is Geoffrey Shields. Next, how that love for music became a national service and an unexpected shift into cultivation, because this name, Shields and Shields, it is the Shields and Shields, We'll tell you more after the break.